All right, we're here with Luis Ortiz, trainer. First, let's recap last week. How would you overall grade Luis Ortiz last week?
Well, I think in the category of getting the job done, doing 10 rounds of boxing, which is what this sport is, obviously. You know, I would say B plus. I'm hard. I would say B plus. I think he might give himself a C minus. He's harder on himself, but not definitely horrible. I mean, that's a fair grade. On the stubborn category, I would give him close to an F. You know, you have the body knockout there from round one, and
you hurt him in round one, actually. Round one or round two?
Round 1 and 2, and then throughout the rest of the fight, and then definitely in the end of the fight, 9 and 10, he was hurting him bad to the body. But it was occasional and sporadic, and just really trying to set up the head knockout. And I get it, everyone likes to go to sleep one. But the body one is cool too when you got it, So you learn from every fight. He's definitely a fighter that will learn from every fight and does learn from every fight. An overall grade, I definitely A minus. Overall grade with everything. He showed fantastic skills, great stamina. Got a second win when he was supposed to, and showed his movement. So Hammer's not an easy guy. By far, he's not a world beater, and he never has, I think portrayed himself to do that. He's definitely a gatekeeper in the heavyweight division, but a good one. So if you sleep on him, he definitely can knock you out. He has the punching power to prove it and to do it. And if you give him time, I think Hammer's always been thrown in there with no time. He had time with Luis. It was a good 12 weeks for him.
Oh,
10
beautiful.
weeks for him.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he wasn't a last
So it's
minute
a quality
guy.
win.
Yeah, absolutely. He wasn't thrown in there last minute. He had plenty of time, and he said it. And he came off a fight not recently either. So, pleased. Very pleased with the performance.
And moving forward, obviously, he's been the boogeyman of the heavyweight division, excluding Deontay Wilder. Last March, he's had 4 fights in pretty much in a year. And what's the plan moving forward?
Well, moving forward, I think the plan has to stay the same, which is what we're doing, just trying to stay busy. We might take a little bit of a proactive rest now and not come back in the next 90 days or so like we've been doing, and give it a minute and let some of these other fights play out that are happening. Like Tyson signing with ESPN was a proactive chess move on his part to do just that. Maybe take a break between the rematch and get a good payday, and then get back to the rematch. And now Word Whyte following suit. You can't blame the guys for doing the things that they do like that. They position themselves to make some money, and at the same time, maybe get an easier fight. It's not great for the fans. Luis is about the fans. He wants the fights that the fans are going to like. He's genuine, he's sincere when he really says he'll fight anyone. And we got to sometimes, not talk him out of it, but just, get him thinking in another direction right away, with people that call him out, and he'll fight them all. But it's a tough road still. It's a tough road still because, as you said, the boogeyman, I think maybe it's true, but they're starting to dodge Wilder too now. So it's like maybe the torch is being shared at this point, and maybe the two boogeymen should do it again.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
And he used the word dodged. Do you think Tyson Fury ducked him?
Without a doubt. I mean, that was a hard fight, and he was put on his ass hard, and he got up because he got possessed. I don't know how he got up. It was impressive. But the second fight around necessarily doesn't always favor the guy that was on his ass. The guy's coming in with more confidence. He still is the undefeated champion. He's still going to be fighting here in the U.S. He's just going to jump on Fury quicker. So if I was in that position to advise Fury, I would say, look, this is presented now. Let's make, maybe the same amount of money and fight, some of these Molinas of the world, or Chris Ariolas of the world, and make some money. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It still is a business, and that's what you need to do and to position yourself. But I think Wilder and Fury are both young enough to meet in a later date It doesn't have to happen today. I don't think it would spoil that fight. Unfortunately, Luis doesn't have that privilege where he can wait out anyone. So, you know, it's a scenario where people are going to have to just fight him now because they feel like he's near Social Security age, you know, and I'm going to take this old man out and collect that, you know, and keep it moving. But, you know, he started late as a professional. He's 30 years old, Luis, and he's well preserved. He's been doing most of the knocking out, bar the Wilder fight. He's been doing most of the punishment, most of the knocking out. We don't spar and have gym wars to leave anything in the gym with him because we take into consideration, obviously, his age, even though he doesn't. But I do. So I try not to treat him like a young 19-year-old, 20-year-old, and make him, you know, leave it in the gym, so to speak, right? He did do that early on. He did do that when we started and when he was making a name for himself. So now I don't think it's quite as important. We do get the quality work. We do train very hard. We do get quality sparring, and we do dog it out. But it's not as often as we used to do, and that's more for strategic reasons. I don't think it's because of anything else. So let's see what happens. It's really I can't answer the question. I can just kind of dance around it. You know.
You've been you and Luis Ortiz have been a topic of many fights. Dillian Whyte, December. What happened with that?
Well, I mean, what happened was that the conversation began between the management side and the promotion side of Dylan, and it wasn't. You know, it's just the offers are ridiculous.
What was the ridiculous offer?
You know, I couldn't tell you an exact number, but so much so that it wasn't even worth, like, you know, it's clearly like when a fighter says, I want 15 million to fight. You know, you're pricing yourself way out of that fight when that fight is worth 150,000 and you're asking for 15 million. Well, when you're offering under $1 million, you know, maybe even under $500,000 when the fight is clearly a multi-million-dollar fight, that's not bona fide offers. Sure. You know, so Dylan wouldn't have taken the fight shoe flipped. Granted, Dylan maybe in the UK is a bigger draw, blah blah blah, but he is fighting Luis, that immediately, you know, brings a little pizzazz to any fight, whether it's Dylan and Luis, Ortiz and Luis, Ortiz and Joshua. All those fights become immediately more interesting because of the Ortiz factor. Sure. So you have to, you know, take that into consideration. And if you really want to fight, and if you really want to make it happen, then offer the right starting point. Maybe it's not the final offer, but the right starting point. So that's what happened. And then his management team is second to none, and doesn't even entertain it. And it's like, you know, okay, thanks, bye. And then, you know, that's where it started and that's where it ended. So, you know, no contracts were signed, no negotiations. Okay. It wasn't even like, you know, a long played out scenario. It's like, hey, would you take 500,000? Would you take 100? I don't know what the number was, but for the managers to say, listen, it was ridiculous.
How about Anthony Joshua? Was there any talks with Anthony Joshua?
Other than when we quote unquote signed with Eddie Hearn, which never did. It was just, you know, come to the UK, have a couple fights.
Oh, you never signed with Metro?
No.
Oh, wow.
No. The only person that he has signed to, Luis, has been Date Promotions and Golden Boy, and his manager obviously ended that Golden Boy scenario, and that's very public, and buying out that contract. And so the Matchroom was okay, come on out and let's see what happens. And Eddie's not a man of his word, so, you know, and I'm not the first one to say it, I'm just probably the one who's saying it the most. But
that being Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn, he's not a man of his word. And if you're signing a fighter to make the fight happen, and you don't make it happen, and those were the only reasons for us to take those two fights, you know, it just, that never played out that way, you know, so it was never got to even a conversation, and I'm sure Joshua was even clueless to the fact that was possibly going to happen. But I think more he wanted, maybe, possibly, being in the business as long as I've been in, there's a possibility that maybe Eddie wanted to sign Luis to get him out of the way, you know, just to put him on the shelf, get him out of the way. But he didn't want to invest the money that the management was asking to actually sign a formal agreement. So, you know, he was like...
Yeah, 2 fights over there?
He had 2 fights, David Allen
Malik Scott.
and Malik Scott. And so it never happened. So there's never really been a conversation. Now it's more active than it's ever been, which is, you know, some of these guys, like I told you, are putting themselves in positions, and some are even painting themselves in corners to not even be able to make fights happen. But Joshua seems to be the guy that's now sticking out the most after he fights
Big Baby.
Big Baby, which is not an easy fight either. But if he pulls that out, it leaves him for his pay-per-view, you know, with Luis, if they really want that fight. If he can pull Big Baby out.
He said he would like to fight him.
He has said it now. So at least now he's speaking, he's saying it, and maybe the fighter now can convince the promoter to do it. At the end of the day, the fighter has the most pull. He says, I want it, I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do. I want the fight, I want the fight. You got to make the fight and roll the dice. You know, Eddie's having success with AJ, and I don't blame him for not wanting to stop that gravy train and just focus on darts, you know, so I don't blame him, but you got to fight. Your people are going to turn on you if you don't fight the guys. Baby's a nice, like, okay, here's a tidbit of what you guys are asking for out of your British champion. Here's a tough American fighter that I don't believe is going to have the punching power to stop AJ's, as long as AJ doesn't punch himself out. Then that's when it can get ugly for him. If
he fatigues between 7 through 9, somewhere in there. He typically fatigues.
If he fatigues and he can withstand it and get a second win in the championship rounds, he'll pull it out. But if he fatigues, if he tries to haul off on Miller and it doesn't happen, and he's dead tired by the 5th, he's in trouble. He's done. It's not an easy fight, but can be. But it's not an easy fight.
Sure.
So, along with you know, Adam. Adam is another guy like Big Baby, who's not a guy you got to take lightly, regardless of his physique. It doesn't matter. You have to get in top shape to beat those 2 guys. Top shape, all cardio, all Jack LaLanne stuff.
Will you be there June 1st?
Absolutely.
So you and Luis Ortiz will be in attendance June 1st.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a great opportunity to steal some media coverage and put pressure on him.
I mean, just to keep the pressure on, because you know, it's the fight that makes the most sense. Wilder's going to fight Brazil, and then could possibly want the rematch in late year's end, and so could Joshua. So it's those 2 guys.
So you will be in New York for Brazil as well. Well, if it will be in Barclay, it's projected to be in Barclay.
More likely it's going to be in Barclay. Yeah, we're going to be in those fights. You know, Luis is a fan of Wilder for many reasons, and he's spoken it. One, family man wise, and second is he gave him the opportunity and didn't think twice about it, and gave it to him twice. The first time that he, you know, had that hiccup with the blood pressure medication, he could have pulled out. He didn't. He said, run it back, let's go, get it right, and let's do it. So
you consider Deontay Wilder an admirable,
a man of his word.
Man of his word.
Absolutely, a man of his word, and you know, without a doubt, Luis feels the same way about it. Whether he's not going to try and rip his head off again in the rematch,
obviously
and vice versa.
Obviously they will.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're the best of friends. If anything, you know, very limited conversations, but in the conversations, some mutual respect. So, but he doesn't feel that way about Joshua or Dylan White. Please, he thinks Dylan White's such a, you know, trash talking, you know, dodger, you know, cherry picking guys, you know, whatever. So. Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be fans. You know,
fight to be harder to make. We got quite. They said Dillian White may sign with ESPN. Tyson Fury's already there. Matchroom got Anthony Joshua, and you over here with PBC. Do you think it would actually be quite tougher, or you think money reigns supreme?
I think, you know, Tyson and Lennox showed that years ago that 2 networks can air the same fight. I think that any fight can get made. And money is the deciding factor. I think Luis adds the pay-per-view quality to any fight. Last week's fight, I think peaked at a little bit over 500,000, which is a great, you know, is a great Showtime championship boxing showing. It's not shabby at all. And I want to say that Luis is a factor to all those things, you know, and I think that him and Joshua and pay-per-view would be big money. Him and Wilder pay-per-view would be big money, big views. He continues to do the job, regardless of, look, he's beat the guys that guys couldn't beat, right? So you have Conjano, that went the rounds with Parker, right? And then he has this
Travis
guy,
Kaufman.
Kaufman, right? Exactly. So he's knocking out the guys that our champions themselves can't beat. So he's proven himself, and he will continue to do so. If that's what our next fight is, just another guy that we got to continue to prove, you know, and whatever, then we're going to do it. We're going to, you know, like I said, he's preserved. So he's legitimately going to be 40 years old in the next few days at the end of the month. But he says he feels 30. You know, really.
You better say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Besides, you better say it. I think legitimately what he does in the ring and what he does, you know. Listen, I see some 30-year-olds looking way shittier than what Luis is performing. He's just getting, you know, flack because of his age and because whatever. He can't defend himself. He can't speak, so he can't defend himself. He can defend himself if he's shutting up a lot of people. So sometimes, you know, he relies on me to say some things.
I know. I'm always,
you know,
hey, come on, let's do the interview real quick. Yeah.
So, and sometimes I do elaborate to what he's actually saying because I know him so well, because we have that so much, you know, time we spend in the gym. We've talked about these things, so I can say some things sometimes that he didn't even say in the interview that I know he really wanted to say or wants to say. So, you know, it's been a pleasure and continues to be so to work with King Kong Boxing, Jay and Luis and all the fighters that they end up signing and that they sign, because they really work with guys that have character. They like to do that. They've walked away from a lot of good fighters that I told them, man, these are great fighters. And yeah, but you know what? Not for me. And that shows a lot about the management team. It's not so much that it's money with them, you know. And Luis is the same way. Luis legitimately is a humble, sincere family man who cries for his children and loves the sport and loves to train and loves to fight. That's all he knows how to do.
I thought Showtime missed the ball because it was the anniversary week. I thought they should have did a special, because you had doctors in New York, right, to help his daughter. I thought they should have did a special on Deontay Wilder's daughter, Luis Ortiz. I thought that would have been a great lead into the fight.
That would have been fantastic, and they didn't do that. And at the end, you know, he's a father first, and so is Deontay. So I think that's where they're very, you know,
that's where they're connected.
And that's where they're connecting, and that's where they've connected is in those scenarios, you know, because there's nothing that a real father won't do for their children. Nothing, you know.
You know, months before, when the fight was canceled, I'll tell you this just to substantiate your claim as it relates how you feel about Deontay Wilder. When the fight was canceled in November, or when he took the Bermane-Stavern fight, he flew out to LA in December, and I'm pretty cool with Deontay Wilder, and he invited me to one of his workouts, and he says, I'm gonna give Luis Ortiz another shot. You know why? And I was like, why? He says, because of his daughter. This was 2 weeks or 3 weeks after he defeated Bermane-Stavern, right? He said, I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna fight him because of his daughter. And I thought that was pretty cool, because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you really don't have to go through that. You know, you really don't have to go through that.
He didn't have to go through that. He wasn't in a position where he needed to prove himself, you know, really at all. Even though we were putting the pressure, but ours was pressure intelligently so to get the fight, obviously. But he could have sidestepped it. He could have brushed it off. He could have said whatever he wanted to say, and what he said was, "I'll fight you." And when Luis didn't put down his medication on the VADA forms, and that came up, he quickly said, not even called VADA, and said, "Hey, listen, come on, that's no reason to scratch this. Let's re-up and let's do it again." And the biggest support came from the Wilder camp on that to make the fight happen, along from, you know, Al and the guys in the immediate trenches there. But yeah, I mean, you know, listen, people say, oh, you know, Luis is kissing Wilder's ass, blah blah blah. No, he's not. He's being a man. He's being a man, and he's owning up to what, you know, real men do, and that's
why we're furious with Tyson Fury at this point. You know, in terms of media and like the American public, I would say boxing public is disappointed that Tyson Fury gave Deontay Wilder his word when Deontay Wilder gave him a chance when he came from nothing. You know, 400 pounds is well documented, drugs and alcohol, steroids, etc., depression, and he says, you know what? I'm gonna still give you a shot, you know. Although Deontay Wilder may have needed him to on a certain level, but I think the respect that Deontay Wilder served him, Tyson Fury didn't return it.
No.
You know, and that's kind of now Tyson Fury's like in this like media abyss now. You know what I mean? Where people are kind of angry with him. You know, so.
Well, you know, I agree with you, and it would have been a hell of a fight. I don't think it would have favored Fury. So maybe at the end, Fury, you know, did the right thing as far as listening to his managers and saying, you know, blah blah blah. But maybe he could have just, you know, come forward with it in a different way, and you know, and maybe just grabbed it by the horns and addressed it and said, look, I said this, I gave my word, I did this, but this is an opportunity I'm not going to pass up, regardless of the money I can make with Wilder. I need a couple fights. I got knocked down. I got to clean up my act with where I went wrong there, and I'm going to use these opportunities to take these fights. So maybe if you're honest and you're sincere to the public about what you are, and then, you know, but you know, that's few and far between in the business here from anybody, you know, from promoters down. The most honest might be, you know, sometimes is the guys that are the least relevant.
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And at the end of the day, he could have maybe handled it a little bit differently.
Sure.
But, you know, you got to respect the fact that he's looking out for himself in a sport where no one looks out for you.
Absolutely.
And it is that
Everyone's
sport.
an independent contractor.
Yeah, no, it is that sport. No one will look out for you, even in your own team. Very rarely you're going to find a camp that they all really sincerely have your back to the very end, win, lose, or draw, whatever it is, and walk you into the next chapter of your life, right? A lot of people chew you up and spit you out, and that's 1,000% on the promotion side. I don't know one promoter that wouldn't just walk over the next guy, you know? You know, and then there's good managers. There's good managers and advisors, you know, and Al being one who really cares for fighters.
He does. He's fighter first.
He's proven that many times over. And then you have good managers that do the same. That they have money and they don't need your money, and they sincerely want to better your next chapter.
Sure.
And then you have trainers and that you know, unfortunately will sell themselves for the next fighter's opportunity.
Absolutely right.
A guy that is needed because of A, B, or C, but you have a couple young bucks coming up, and you want opportunities for them, so you sell out your here and now guy.
Absolutely.
For the, you know, so it's a tough business. So you can't fault the Fury for kind of looking out for himself
financially. Yeah,
financially, of course, and again, I go back to saying that regardless of what Fury was doing, he wasn't hurting Deontay. Deontay was hurting Fury and proved it in the knockdowns and the almost knockout. So, you know, you don't really want to rush back into some shit like that unless it's just ridiculous, stupid money.
Funny thing.
Guaranteed stupid money. Mayweather kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, he fought that Saturday, and Monday we went to dinner. Sam Watson has a restaurant down in Los Angeles, and we went and had dinner. Me, Sam, Deontay, and film producer. And I told him that night, I said, I don't care what Tyson Fury says. He may not want to fight you again because he got knocked out. He know. I think on a certain level, Jack Reese might have woke him up to. So he was so close to him, you know, like certain. I don't know that to be true. This is just me just looking at the situation, but I don't know how he woke up. But I think just, you know, Jack Reese.
I think that might be.
Yeah.
What you're saying,
you know,
that Jack might have just yelled to his face.
Yeah.
Like, hey, oh.
Yeah.
Because if he'd have just counted from the corner or counted from the middle of the ring, or whatever, he would have thought he was, you know.
He was pretty close. Like
he was in his face.
Yeah, he was in his face. You know.
He got up though.
He got up from the grave. He was definitely the Undertaker that night. Definitely the Undertaker.
But yeah, he don't want that.
No.
Nobody wants that. I don't care who you are. You know? I mean, Luis met the same fate as far as like losing the fight, but he was exhausted. He fell to his knees. He wasn't out and asleep and in another planet.
I could tell he was exhausted.
He was exhausted
because he spit and then he spit. He was like, whoosh. He was like,
he was exhausted, flat out, nothing left. Don't get me wrong. If the referee allows him to stand back up, and if the referee allows to move, I don't know that Luis would have had enough to really protect himself, and maybe he gets laid out the same way, right? But in that,
that's pretty honest for you to say something like that.
Absolutely, because it is what it is. It's boxing, and these guys are massive, destroying punchers.
And we know how Deontay Wilder closes the show.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mariano Rivera, one of your boys,
you know? So the referee made the right call because he saw an exhausted fighter, and Luis just fell to his knees. And Luis is not a punk. He would have fought back.
I'm sure.
He would have tried to fight back, and then it's just one shot. And that might have been the shot that ends a career. So I'm not upset with Luis's stoppage at all. I never have been. And now there's Luis. And as far as Fury, he's got to know that, you know, I don't know how the hell I got up. I did. But I was knocked out.
He was out.
I mean,
he was out.
From being knocked out.
He was. I was shocked.
So that's tough to come back. You could get a little gun shy even if you say all the right things. Emotionally and mentally, he could be feeling the effects of being a little bit gun shy, knowing that you don't really have the pop to hurt him. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the pop to hurt him. He doesn't.
He got to stay in his trick bag for 12 rounds.
He's got to stay in his bag of tricks for 12 rounds, and can you do that? And Wilder said it best one time. I forgot who he was fighting. He said, "You got to do everything perfect for 12 rounds. I just need 1 second."
Whew.
And that's all he
scary.
needs. Yeah,
that's scary.
And that's a scary, you know, fact to. And then you got to have, you know, guys that have pop, you know, to not have that affect them, because you might have say that to Luis, and Luis is gonna say, "Well, I only need the same." And Luis is crazy enough to stand there with you, you know, and when you shouldn't be there. You should not be in front of Wilder's right hand. I don't care who you are, how good you are. Don't stand in front of him.
You got to move to your right shoulder at all times.
Don't stand in front of him, he's going to knock you out. Period. It might be the strongest right hand in heavyweight boxing. Ever. Not recently. Ever.
Tony Bellew, did you hear what Tony Bellew said? He called him the worst heavyweight ever.
The worst heavyweight?
Yeah, he's like, he's the worst heavyweight ever.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think all his worst things that make him the worst heavyweight ever make him probably the best.
Yeah, it makes him kind of freakish, you know?
Yeah. And if he wasn't blessed with that disgusting power, he wouldn't be there. That is his, you know, God that can't give you everything.
God can't.
He's not going to give you that nasty, destructive Mack truck power and Ortiz skills.
Yeah,
he's not going to do that.
Wow, imagine that. Imagine you put Wilder and Ortiz together. What that fighter looks like.
Not going to do it. God ain't doing that.
Wow,
he ain't making that monster.
Well, if they had tag team boxing, that might work. You know, what I mean, like the WWE. You know,
only if they had. But other than that, no, God ain't going to create that kind of monster. He's a little more, a little more sane.
And you know, lastly, you talked to one of my friends, Cali Enigma.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to say thank you, because you give him the information and it trickles down to me, and I repost it or do video. So I appreciate the relationship that you developed with him. It's helped a great deal in terms of building a Luis Ortiz brand, because he does a video, and then 10 more videos comes after Cali talks to you.
Right?
And for sure,
awesome.
I do my due diligence for sure. You know, every time y'all talk and he reports to us, I have tons of texts from Cali, and he's like, "Yeah, Luis Ortiz said this about Dillian. Okay, let me go do a video." You know what I mean?
Awesome.
And so I genuinely thank you for that, man.
Thank
you. Yeah, so thank you for
and thanks for the support.
Yeah, all the time.
I speak right off the cuff. You know? I'm not sugarcoating shit.
I know.
Because it's just what it is. People want to hear it, you know, and if you sugarcoat it about not only us, but about the people around us, you know, and my team knows that.
Sure.
You know, say it how it is. So if you don't want it to be said, then don't say it around me.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Any last words?
Well,
30 minutes, man. 28, 30,
right?
28. This is the fastest 30 minutes I had today.
I'm telling you,
hey, we've been. Hey, tell what we missed doing this interview.
The press conference.
We missed
the entire press conference.
We missed the entire press conference. Porter Ugas, you know what I mean?
Press conference.
You know what I mean? It's literally no one there. You know what I mean?
Ugas
is there. Ugas and Porter is there, but outside of that, it's not. It has no like no pulley power. It's gonna be a hell of a fight. It's gonna be a hell of a fight.
I'm looking forward to the Ajabe Mansour fight.
Yeah, I told Ajabe, I was just talking to him, I says, Amir Mansour is going to give you everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally a grown man, you know?
No, you got to knock him out. You got to knock him out, and you just got to outbox.
And he's not afraid of getting knocked out either.
He goes out that way. That kind of dude, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that fight, too. Hopefully they don't have him, but hopefully that may make the card. It's not on TV because they got I forget who they have. They have.
It's not even on the prelims.
It's on the prelims, but it's not going to be on Fox. But I would
Fox Sports. Though.
Yeah, Fox Sports. It may be on Fox Sports 1. I think leading into it. Yeah, you know. So, but yeah. Any last words?
You know, I'm looking forward to a fantastic 2019 with all the guys that I'm working with. Luis signed two new fighters to the stable. Honoré, couldn't butcher his last name if I tried, but big 6'8" African heavyweight, and Habib Ahmed, another African 160-pounder. Great additions to the King Kong stable, and I'm looking forward to, as a coach, you know, having a great year and continue doing what I love to do. Been blessed. It's been a long road. It's been close to 26 years now. But like Dundee told me when I started with him, that's my mentors.
Wow.
You're not going to make money in this business until you're 30 years in. So.
Really?
Oh yeah. That's
Angelo Dundee?
Angelo Dundee was.
Oh, we got to talk about that. Let's stop, man. I'm gonna stop this. We gonna do